10 reasons the next pandemic is on the horizon. It involves when, not on the off chance that, we will see another worldwide flare-up of a destructive illness. General well-being authorities say there is sensible likelihood an overall episode of a quick microbe could happen inside the following 15 years. It has been almost a century since the 1918 Spanish influenza guaranteed a large number of lives. The far and wide sickness tainted more than 500 million individuals and caused a huge number of deaths. Notwithstanding the significant advances in medication and innovation during the most recent century, we are undependable from encountering a comparative episode today. Here are 10 reasons we are near the precarious edge of another destructive pandemic. Number 10. Population increase. During the Spanish influenza episode of 1918, there were under 2 billion individuals living in the world. The far and wide infection slaughtered roughly 2.5% of the worldwide populace, around 50 million individuals. Today, there are 7.6 billion individuals living on Earth. Another pandemic with a similar worldwide death rate would bring about 190 million deaths. High populace rates increment the spread of irresistible sicknesses. More individuals are possessing a similar territory, which prompts more contact among people and more freedoms for illnesses to spread. The greater part of the total populace lives in metropolitan territories, and this rate keeps on expanding. Transferable sicknesses spread rapidly in significant urban areas. Individuals who utilize public transportation come in close contact with one another. Living courses of action are packed. What's more, in numerous nations, thickly populated regions contain ghettos, where individuals live in unhygienic conditions that advance the development and spread of microorganisms. Number 9. Antibiotic resistance. For as long as 70 years, anti-infection agents have been utilized to treat a wide scope of contaminations brought about by microscopic organisms. In any case, these medications are losing their strength as microbes transform and get antitoxin safe. Diseases brought about by antimicrobial safe microorganisms are troublesome, and in some cases outlandish, to treat. Tom Frieden, previous overseer of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, expressed during a 2014 press occasion that antimicrobial safe microscopic organisms could cause the following pandemic. CRE is a group of anti-infection safe microorganisms that is very disturbing. CRE microbes are named for their protection from carbapenems, a class of antitoxins that are extremely intense and ordinarily successful against drug-safe microorganisms. Recently, the World Health Organization distributed a rundown of the best 12 anti-infection safe microbes. The microorganisms were focused on by which microbes required the most prompt consideration in fostering another treatment. The main three, considered basic, were all impervious to carbapenem. The excess strains of microorganisms on the rundown showed protection from certain anti-infection agents, yet not the most grounded ones. These microbes cause illnesses like pneumonia, blood diseases, and gonorrhea. On the off chance that the rising issue of antitoxin obstruction isn't tended to, numerous diseases that are effectively treatable could turn into a capital punishment. Shockingly, drug organizations don't focus on making new anti-infection agents. The interaction requires a high interest in innovative work costs, and gives a low benefit since patients just consume the medications for a brief time frame. Number 8. Constant flu mutations. Specialists highlight the seasonal infection as perhaps the most probable suspects to cause the following pandemic. Lamentably, this information doesn't mean anything should be possible to stop it. Influenza is difficult to foresee and difficult to get ready for. At present, the best type of assurance is an occasional flu shot, which is a long way from solid. Researchers make the yearly immunization months before the beginning of influenza season. They make an informed estimate of which influenza strains will be circling and set up the antibody in a similar manner. The viability of this season's virus shot shifts by year. During the 2015 to 2016 influenza season, around half of individuals who got this season's virus shot were really shielded from the strains that were dynamic that year. The 2014 to 2015 influenza season was much more dreadful, with just 19% of immunizations giving insurance from that year's infections. A couple of strains of the seasonal infection course around the world, however it is accepted that handfuls more exist. Each strain transforms each year. The degree a strain changes is a main consideration in how risky the subsequent infection is. Some influenza transformations are slight. It just takes a little distinction for seasonal influenza to get unrecognizable to the human-safe framework. This is the thing that makers of the occasional immunization endeavor to foresee and insure against. In any case, a few years, seasonal influenza goes through such exceptional changes that it arises as very nearly a totally new infection. These are the years that resulted in a pandemic, for example, the infection change that caused the Spanish influenza of 1918. Number 7. Increased travel. The recurrence, speed, and availability of present-day travel are uncommon. Individuals can't traverse the globe in a day. This implies that illnesses can spread similarly as fast. Travel puts individuals in danger for totally new sicknesses, or new strains of natural illnesses. Individuals that move to unfamiliar nations can unintentionally acquaint microbes or infections with a space that nearby populaces are less prepared to deal with. One explanation the 2014 Ebola episode was so destructive in West Africa was on the grounds that the territory had not recently experienced the Ebola infection. Their ill-equipped well-being frameworks were inexperienced with treating the sickness, and the neighborhood individuals had no characteristic resistance or resilience developed from earlier openness to the infection. Additionally, individuals commonly invest energy in territories that give good conditions to contaminations to spread during movement, like planes and inns. These settings power individuals to come in close contact with one another and share germs. Toward the start of the 2003 SARS flare-up, a tainted Chinese specialist remained at a lodging in Hong Kong prior to becoming sick and kicking the bucket. The illness spread to others remaining at a similar lodging, who at that point loaded up planes and conveyed the microorganisms to different nations. Within 5 months of the Chinese specialist registering to the Hong Kong lodging, SARS had contaminated in excess of 8,000 individuals in excess of 30 distinct nations, with 774 cases bringing about death. As worldwide travel keeps on expanding, so does the global spread of infectious illnesses. Number 6. Deforestation. Roughly 75% of new irresistible sicknesses are zoonotic, which means they spread to people from creatures. As the recurrence of contact among people and untamed life rises, so does the danger of disease. Deforestation builds the event of sicknesses, for example, Ebola and jungle fever, since it upsets the climate of creatures that host the ailment, causing microscopic organisms. At the point when their environments are obliterated, creatures are compelled to look for food and sanctuary somewhere else, which regularly gets them closer contact with people. The possibility that deforestation builds the spread of illness is anything but another one. In the last part of the 90s, an investigation of mosquito movement in Peru showed that jungle fever-conveying animal groups living in a deforested region bit individuals right around multiple times more often than similar species living in an immaculate backwoods. As per a recent report, chopping down just 4% of a Brazilian backwoods brought about a 50% increment in intestinal sickness cases. Deforestation likewise added to a limited dry spell in Brazil. This made individuals store more water in open compartments, a training that draws in mosquitoes and is accepted to have expanded the spread of Zika. Mosquitoes are not by any means the only illness transporter influenced by deforestation. Primates, bats, and rodents are additionally overflowing with microorganisms that contaminate people. However long we keep on infringing on the environments of creatures, we will keep on gambling new ailments, some of which could demonstrate profoundly infectious and untreatable diseases. Number 5. Research risks. In 2014, American researchers made an infection basically the same as the 1918 Spanish influenza. Utilizing a strategy called switch hereditary qualities, specialists at the University of Wisconsin, Madison made the infection from parts of wild bird influenza strains. They additionally changed the infection to make it airborne, a trait of the most perilous lethal illnesses. Researchers on the side of the investigation guarantee that reproducing the hazardous infection is a fundamental piece of understanding the danger it postures to general society. Yet, numerous researchers are against these investigations, contending that the demonstration of making these infections represents a danger to the human populace. Indeed, even in the most noteworthy security labs, making a perilous microorganism is an unsafe movement. Pundits of this training state there is next to zero proof that these investigations really help save lives, however they unquestionably imperil them. The study of disease transmission educators at Harvard School of Public Health cautioned that if a risky infection got away or was deliberately delivered from a lab, it could cause a disastrous pandemic. Number 4 World Health Organization response. At the point when the following exceptionally infectious and quick-spreading sickness begins getting across the globe, readiness will decide the quantity of lives lost. Individuals should know about a danger to take prudent steps. The World Health Organization is the principal guard dog for worldwide well-being, and they are answerable for sounding the alert during an episode. Yet, the WHO can't be trusted to do this in an ideal manner. The late Ebola flare-up started in mid-2014. The WHO didn't pronounce a general well-being crisis until August of that year. It was 5 months after Guinea and Liberia began encountering flare-ups. A board of free worldwide well-being specialists expressed that the postponement caused unnecessary misery and passing. The WHO was vigorously scrutinized for their lethargic reaction during the Ebola episode. They promised to make upgrades with the goal that their reaction time and adequacy would be better later on. We should trust this is valid, since, supposing that they are delayed to recognize the following pandemic, the harm will be finished when they apologize for their tarrying. Number 3 Climate change. Vector-borne infections are ailments sent to people by insects, ticks, mosquitoes, or some other living being. As environmental change warms the globe, the event of these illnesses just as the geological scope of cases has expanded. Jungle fever, Zika, and dengue are only a couple of numerous deadly infections communicated by mosquitoes, with malaria being the deadliest. Mosquitoes flourish in warm environments. A dangerous atmospheric deviation can make mosquito populaces spread geologically as more territories become affable to the infection-conveying bugs. Environmental change additionally makes longer warm seasons for mosquitoes to raise, creating more vessels fit for communicating diseases to people. Insects and ticks likewise flourish in warm environments and communicate various risky sicknesses, including Congo Crimean hemorrhagic fever, typhus, and Lyme infection. Number 2 Bioterrorism. The following pandemic could be the after-effect of a purposeful assault. Bill Gates, probably the most extravagant man on the planet, has gone through the most recent 20 years financing a worldwide well-being effort. Recently, he talked at a security meeting in Munich. Entryways cautioned that bioterrorism, the purposeful arrival of infections or germs, could be answerable for executing a huge number of individuals. The danger of bioterrorism has expanded during the previous 5 years. Changes in atomic science have made the advancement of natural weapons simpler and more open. A fear-based oppressor presently can utilize hereditary designing to incorporate smallpox or make a profoundly infectious and deadly form of this season's virus. Insight bunches report that ISIS has been chipping away at bioweapons at their Syria and Iraq bases. Number 1 Current pandemic potential. The H7N9 bird seasonal infection was first seen in quite a while in 2013, when 2 Chinese residents kicked the bucket subsequent to reaching the illness. China has seen yearly episodes from that point forward, and as of late encountered its 5th influx of H7N9 human contaminations. The 5th wave, which was set apart as starting in October 2016, has been the most exceedingly terrible by a long shot. There were a larger number of cases than the other 4 waves consolidated, and it covered the biggest topographical region. The death pace of affirmed H7N9 cases is around 40%. As of October 25, 2017, there have been an aggregate of 1,622 affirmed H7N9 cases, with 619 bringing about death. H7N9 is positioned by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention as this season's virus strain with the best potential to cause a pandemic. Up until now, human diseases of H7N9 have to a great extent been ascribed to the live poultry markets in China. However, the infection is proceeding to change, and could before long represent a lot bigger danger through human-to-human transmission. A year ago, an examination was done on an exceptionally pathogenic strain of H7N9. Ferrets, the favored creature model for testing contagiousness of the seasonal infection in people, were contaminated with the infection. Sound ferrets and tainted ferrets were put in isolated pens close to one another. The infection spread effectively, slaughtering 2 out of 3 solid ferrets. The examination demonstrated that the infection could be sent through airborne respiratory drops, for example, those that happen during hacking and wheezing. In view of the extraordinary transformations seen in H7N9 in the course of the most recent year, the following flood of the infection could in all likelihood be exceptionally infectious among people, and similarly as lethal. Presently, there is no viable immunization for the most recent H7N9 strains,